Hi, everybody, and well, we are now in the age of King Andy. King Andy, he's from the north, he's down in the south, he's in Downing Street, and of course, I'm sure you saw all the stuff that happened yesterday. And I want to talk just very briefly about the main things that I took out of that. First of all, I have to say, there's a German term called Schadenfreude, which means where you take great delight in someone else's misery. And I was quite happy yesterday to see all those people being sacked, the Stormerites, the Rachel Reeves of this world, the David Lammies of this world, the Steve Reeds of this world, the Peter Kyles of this world. They were all. It was amazing. It was brilliant because these were truly hideous creatures who Stormer had brought in and placed around him. So their departure was to be welcomed, as indeed, of course, was that of Stormer and Reeves, the double act themselves, who have done so much to destroy our economy. So that was good. And then the downside, who the new replacements are. So out goes Rachel Reeves. In comes John Healey. Now, John Healey was the Defence Secretary, and some people will say, well, he's a guy of some sound principle, insofar as he did resign because the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, wouldn't give him what he felt was a necessary budget to run our defence industry. Fair enough. But this is the same John Healey, when he went on an LBC programme with Nick Ferrari, wasn't able to actually explain the number of submarines we've got, the number of naval vessels we've got. In other words, he didn't have the detail. A guy that doesn't have the detail being Chancellor, who's never worked in business, it's not a great look. Which, of course, brings me to others. Like, for example, let's talk about the business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds. Now, the first thing to understand about the new business secretary is this: he's never worked in business. Second thing to understand about the new business secretary is he had a bit of a problem first time round whenever it was discovered that he kept asserting that he was a qualified solicitor when he'd never qualified as a solicitor. Yeah, bit of a problem. Tricky, but he's now in charge of business. I'm sure all will be well. And then let's not forget Louise Hay. She who used to have pink hair. Remember, she was sacked. She had to resign from the first Stormer government because apparently she was a convicted fraudster. Yeah. It dates back to 2014. But she had reported that her phone had been stolen. It was actually in her handbag. She never bothered telling the police. That remains on her record. So the way the media keep talking about when they talk about Nigel Farage. Oh, he took 5 million from that convicted fraudster Cotterill. Well, I hope every time they talk about Louise Hay, now it'll be convicted fraudster Louise Hay. Do you think we'll get that? And then, Angela Rayner's back, Queen of the North. She's back. This time back to housing. What can I say? Housing. Are they taking? Well, I think they are taking the proverbial. Of course, we all know Angela also had to resign from the Stormer government because of problems with paying tax on her second property. That's tricky. But she's back anyway. Angela's back. So we get a lot of these retreads from the first Stormer administration back into this Burnham administration. And so it's a bit, I can't say I'm overly inspired. Not really. I also saw on a totally parochial level that the new Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Hilary Benn, has been sacked. Good. Nobody liked him, apart from Republicans. Hilary Benn's been sacked. And we've got Captain Underpants himself, Sir Chris Bryant. Yeah, that's really good. That's so much hope in my heart. Have you hope in your heart? And then to finish off, I just wanted to talk about the first policy announcement that we've had from Stormer. And it's this, from Burnham. Got to remember to say it's Burnham. And it says that they're cutting 5% on electricity bills from October. Great. You might say, well, that shows you he's putting hope in every heart and saving money in every postcode. Well, it won't be happening here in Northern Ireland because we're still under European Union regulation, so we can't get it. Instead, apparently, they're going to send us cash. That, oh, be still my beating heart. But for the rest of you in England, Scotland, and Wales, just consider this. Between now and the end of the year, your electricity is going to go up by about 13%. So the 5% saving on VAT is not all that it appears. But secondly, it's uncosted. The government came out today and said, yeah, this is all totally funded. We funded it by the by the savings we've made from axing the Digital Savings Act, which I think is 1.2 billion or something like that, roughly. Just one problem. As another Labour guy who was sacked yesterday, Darren Jones, pointed out, but the Digital Savings Act, according to the OBS, is uncosted. There was no budget against it. So how can you have savings from a budget which is zero? How can the government do that? The answer is it can't. This is on the hoof politics. That's what it is. And I have to say, it grabs a headline. Naturally, people like the BBC don't dig into it, but that's the reason for people like me to exist. We do dig into it. So anyway, there you go. Day one in the court of King Andy. How you feeling?